In this lecture, I will demonstrate you that how we can migrate data related to object classification for material by using SAP Fiori app Migrate Your Data. So we have already migrated the characteristics and classes for a material in the previous lectures, and now we have to migrate object classification for materials in this lecture. So what is object classification? So this migration object assigns a material to a class and stores the actual characteristic values for that material. And we use this object to link materials to classes and populate the characteristic values. So I'm back to my SAP Fiori migration project, and first thing we have to add the migration object if it is not already added. So let's click this button settings and then click this button edit. And after that, we will use the search bar to search the migration object related to object classification. And after that, click this button search. So we have few migration objects popped up in the search result, and the following migration object classification material Mara, which we will select. Now we have a second migration object, that is object classification general template. So I will compare both of them specifically so that you can understand the purpose of each migration object, and then can understand that why we are selecting the following object classification. And remember that it is important to understand the difference between the general template and the material one. So both of them can load material classifications for class type 001 and 023, but they are designed for different purposes. The general template is a universal object. It supports more than different class types, materials, equipment, vendors, customers, documents, and many others. It is flexible, but it's also more complex because each object type has its own key structure and prerequisites. On the other hand, the Mara specific template, remember the Mara is the table name into SAP system representing general material data. So the Mara specific template is streamlined and built only for materials. It handles class types 001, which is standard material classification, and class type 023, which is batch classification for materials. So yes, technically we can use both templates to load material classifications, but in practice the Mara template is the cleaner and preferred choice when you are working with materials only, while the general template is used when you need to classify other business objects as well. So here is the rule of thumb: always use the specialist over the generalist. So we will select the material Mara template which is purpose built for products. So let's click this used in project, and we can also take a look at its predecessor objects. So we have all three predecessor objects already migrated into SAP system: characteristic, class, and product. After that, click this button save, and let's take a look. So here we have added this migration object. Let's go back and let's scroll down. So it is not ready for processing, so let's wait for a few seconds. And here we go, it is ready for processing now. Let's click to download its template into XML file. And we have successfully downloaded its template. Let's open this and click enable editing. So we only have one tab where the data is mandatory to enter, and that is the header tab. So I will fill this sheet at my end and then will demonstrate you the data which I will enter now. So I have entered the data in this template for the following products. Now, these are the same products which we uploaded in one of the previous lectures on material master, and I will also show you once again that that's the migration template for materials, and here are the products which we uploaded. So the same products I have used to classify with the characteristics values. And secondly, you will notice that only two products I am using the class type 0 to 3 because these are the products which are using batch management. For example, if I will go back to product master data migration template and will scroll right. So looks like we are in the wrong tab. So let's go back to basic data tab. And after that, take a look. So here you can notice that batch management required indicator, and this is checked only for two products in which the the following product is a semi-finished product and the second one is the finished product. So that's why I am using the batch classification only for these two products which are using batch management. And further, here is a trading goods for which I am creating the classification with class type 001. Now, before I do that, I will go back to SAP GUI and will enter the transaction code MM03 to display the material master, and then we'll enter the material master for the following trading goods and then select views. So currently you notice that there is not a view which shows us that it has a classification data, because if a material has a classification data, then we can see the classification view accordingly. For example, if I will show you another material that is ending 04, and let's click select view. So here you can notice that we have its classification view already, but the material which we don't have does not show the classification view. But after uploading the data migration template, then we will be able to see the classification view for this material as well, as we are going to create classification by uploading this data migration template on object classification. So let's enter the material number and I will show you the classification view. Let's click enter. So here you can view the class type, that's the class name, and here it has its characteristic description and values. And similarly, you can click this button to switch the class type to 0 to 3, and it will show you the class for batch and its related characteristic description. So that's the end result we have to achieve after uploading this data migration template. Now, if you are wondering that if there is any transaction code related to this data migration activity, so we can find this transaction code CL20N. So basically, we are going to create data for this transaction code. Now let's go back, and classification status is 1, and we can expand the field that why it has the numeric 1. So 1 represents released, and 2 represents locked, and 3 represents incomplete, and that's the reason I have entered numeric 1 for this field. Let's scroll right. So that's the data I have entered at header tab, And further, if the data type is numerical, then you have to enter numerical value allocation. If it is currency, then here you have to enter the data currency value allocation. And here is character value allocation, because if you remember that in the in one of the previous lectures where we uploaded the characteristic, so our data type was character. So that's the reason we have to enter the values in character value allocation. And here is the class type 001, and that's the class name which we uploaded in the previous lecture, and that's the product number and the characteristic name, and that's the characteristic value. Item number just avoids duplication in the result. And secondly, you notice that in the drill I haven't entered the speed because this characteristic may not be appropriate for this product. And the same case is with the header. For semi-finished product, basically it represents hammer head. So hammer head does not have any speed or voltage, and that's why I have left these fields blank as well. Alternatively, you can also remove them if you do not have any entries to make in these fields. So you can delete them, it's no problem. And similarly, you can take a look that how I have entered the data: class type, class name, product number, characteristic name, and item number, and then the characteristic value. And these characteristic values determine the description of a characteristic. For example, characteristic value is COGR, that represents green color. And now you have the list of all the characteristic values and their description in front before you fill this column on characteristic value. For example, if we open the following data migration template which we uploaded previously and then go to its tab description for character based values, so here you can understand the characteristic value description, that what exactly it represents. So here you can view that WT1 represents, for example, if you scroll down, so WT1 represents 700 gram, and similarly COGR represents green. And if you scroll in the end, so BT1 represents active and BY1 represents the year 2026. So that's how you just have to enter the characteristic value, and automatically when the data is migrated into SAP system, then you will not view these characteristic values but only their description. So that is how I have filled the data. And once you finish, you can click save to save the file, and now go back to your SAP Fiori migration project and then click upload file, and then click upload button once again, and then double click on the template to select it, and now wait for its status from validation scheduled to data successfully transferred to staging tables. Let's go back and then now go to the second action, that is to prepare staging tables. So preparation started. For more information, we can choose monitoring. So wait for a few seconds. So prepare staging tables have been completed in 26 seconds. Let's go back. And the next action is mapping tasks. Let's click on it. So only one mapping task need to be confirmed, that is mapping of classification status. Let's view its details and click confirm for class type 023 and class type 001. After that, go back and then go back once again. The next action is to simulate the data to check any errors. So click start simulation. Let's select the migration object and then choose monitoring. So simulate data is started, so wait for a few seconds until it is finished. So simulate data is completed in 19 seconds. Let's go back. And finally, we are ready to migrate the data related to object classification. Click Start Migration and then click OK. Let's select the migration object and then choose monitoring. So it is scheduled. So wait for few minutes until it is finished. So migrate data is completed in 16 seconds. Let's go back and then click on the successful migrated instances and then go to migration results. So here we have the products for which we created the classification by uploading the data migration template related to object classification. So let's view the following product, that is a finished product, and open it in new window. And it has opened the following Fiori app: manage product master data. And now we can go to the tab classification. And here we can view the material class 001, and accordingly we can view the values such as color green, material aluminum, for the following model, weight, voltage, and speed. And similarly, we can view the batch classification data such as batch status and batch year. Now I will show you the material master data for trading goods. So let's go back. And here now I will enter the trading good ending number 5. So previously it was not showing the classification view. Now let's click on this button and see if we can now view the classification view. So we can view it. It means it has been successfully created. Let's select it and then press enter. Press enter to continue. So we will select 001. And here we can view the classification related to class type 001 with the characteristic description and its value, such as color green, material metal, the following model. So you remember that we haven't entered any value for speed, and that's why we can see this blank. Similarly, we can go back and then can view the second material that is related to semi-finished product, ending number 5. Click select view and then go to classification, press enter to continue. So here we can view the material classification for class type 001, and remember we haven't entered any value for speed and voltage. And similarly we can view the class type 0 to 3 for batch characteristic values such as batch status, batch year. And that's how we can enter the classification data by uploading the data migration for object classification. And I will proceed to the next activity.